Right. Welcome, guys. Hope we are all doing well here with Virtual Village Hall to do our part 2 of our pinch pots. So got my pinch pot with our little rainbow in the middle, and for this session, I've just got some water to dip my paintbrushes in. I've got a kind of flat brush that holds a little bit more paint, and then I've got a quite thin and pointy brush for our detail for when we're painting our rainbow. Just got some kitchen roll to keep everything wiped down, and I just did this because if you don't have a palette, a plate with some cling film over the top is really good, just so you don't have to go out and buy a palette or anything. And the colours we're using today is we're going to use just a smidge of green. We're going to use some yellow, some blue, red and white. These are going to be the main colours, but if you want to use different ones, completely fine. This is your pot. You can do whatever you want to do. I'll try and get everything in the shot. So I've painted my pot white already, so you can see this is what it did look like. And this is all painted white, just so the colours stand out a little bit more. Feel free as well, if you're a bit impatient, you can hair dry in between colours, and that will just dry everything out. If you're not in the hot sun like I was last week, it was very hot. So let me see, we've got our pot, our paints, our brushes, our water, and we're doing a lovely pride rainbow in the middle, and I've got a heart on the outside. And again, you can choose whatever colour you want. I think I'm just going to choose the standard rainbow colours to begin with, and then a nice red on the inside and a pale sort of blue on the outside. So to start off with, I would say I'm going to grab my red and paint the middle of the pot, just so that has a chance to dry first. And also because the first layer of our rainbow is going to be red too, so it means if we go over a little bit with our red, it's not a big deal. So might grab my thicker brush for this one, give it a little dip in dip in water. Oh, and I should say as well, we are using acrylic paint, so just these are the paints that I have on hand, but you can use any brand. I've just had them for convenience. Acrylic's really fun because it's quite forgiving. If you paint over it and you don't like the colour, you don't like it, just wait until it dries and you can paint over it, and the colour you're painting over it with should still be really bright and vibrant. So I've got my brush loaded up with red. Gonna tap off a little bit of the excess because it's quite loaded, and I'm just gonna begin. So feel free, just grab your pot, rotate it, twist it in your hand, and just start painting. So it's quite a small pot I've made. If you made a big one, it might be a little bit easier, but we're just gonna do small dabs, just going round and rotating our pot. Don't worry if you go a little bit outside. I might even do the whole outside rim red. I'm just going to see how I go. You can see the red holds really nice just because I've painted it white before. I would recommend this just to get that colour popping. And for ease, just because I think this is quite a tricky part, I'm just going to go all the way around while I can concentrate on getting the top nice and round. And you can see I've got an apron on today as well, just because it is a little bit messy paint. And I've always found acrylic works really well with clay, air dry clay. I would say more than most other paints. If you are using, say, a watercolor paint, it will show through, just won't be as bright. And if you do it thin enough, it should hopefully be dry by the time you go around again. So let's see, let's go around, thinning out that paint where it's a little bit too thick, and just making sure that we take our time close to the rainbow. Again, thin layers is probably the best way to do this. And I would say this might be the trickiest part, really. It's just getting those edges and curves that are a little bit tricky in the pot. And that looks nice and red to me. I'm just going to go and clean up those side bits again. And I want to make it look nice and round, so even if it is a little bit wobbly, from a bird's eye view, it looks really round. And so, because it's quite a thin layer, should be able to do a second coat now, and it shouldn't be too wet from the first layer. So we'll pop this on now. And again, just rotating everything, make it a little bit easier for you. Brilliant. And now we've got our rainbow, but I'm not going to use my thicker brush. I'm going to pop that in the water for now. I'm going to grab my thinner brush, give it a little dip in the water, and grab my red, because our first colour of the rainbow is red. And again, make sure there's not a lot of excess on. I'm actually going to dab it onto the paper towel, just get rid of that excess paint. Really slowly, we're just going to go around our rainbow for the first layer. Don't worry if it's a little bit wibbly. I think that adds to the charm. and we're painting over the layers anyway, so if the kind of the next colour overlaps, that's absolutely fine. Great, and then we've got our red, and I'll give my brushes a little wash. Just good practice to have them nice and clean for the next colour we use. Right, and our next colour is luckily orange, so we are going to be using some of our red and going to grab a little bit of our yellow and give that a nice mix. I'd start with a 50-50 ratio, and then you can just add more colour as you see fit. If you want it a little bit lighter, we'll just go with more yellow. Again, more reddy tones than we want, obviously, our red. So start with a 50-50 mix and then go from there. So I'm happy with my orange shade, and again, just going to tap off any excess and go in with our second layer. So again, this is quite detailed, so you may want to concentrate just a little bit more here. So if I'm not chatting away, that is why. But we have a nice streak of orange now, and might go in with just another layer on top. Like so. And our next colour is yellow. So we've already used our yellow for the orange, so we're going to grab that yellow again and a little dab on our towel. Yellow is maybe not as pigmented. The other colours show through a little bit more. So I'm just applying a thicker layer of this yellow, just so it really pops out in the rainbow. And it's looking like a rainbow. Just, I would say, 3 more colours from my chart. So our next colour is blue. No, that's a lie. Our next colour is green. So I'm going to grab my green, and same as the past rainbow colours, we're just going to give our brush a little tap and go in with our green. and hopefully you're not running out of space on the rainbow just yet. Should be about halfway through. And I think the green is where it really starts to look like a rainbow, just because you've got that darker colour coming in. Like so. So we're going to go in with this lovely rich blue. And you can see we're getting close to the end of our rainbow. We just need one more colour, which is our purple or violet. So you can see the water's almost gone like a purpley brown colour, and that's because we've mixed our red and our blue together. So to get purple or violet, we're going to grab our red and then grab some blue. I would say red and blue are probably honestly the strongest pigments. They normally overpower most colours. Most colours, if you do mix them together, they do end up like a kind of browny, purpley colour. And that's because when you're mixing the red and blue together, they're just super, super strong. So we've got our purple, but it looks a little bit dark for my liking. So I'm going to give my brush a little wash and grab some white just to make that purple a little more violet-y. And I really like that colour. So I'm going to go in, give my brush a little dab on the towel and paint my violet on. And just remember the kind of bottom of our rainbow as well. Just try and get as close as you can to the bottom of the part where the red touches. Like so. And then we've got our gorgeous rainbow. Oh, I really like that purple as well. Might use that for the heart. In fact, yeah, let's go for it. I'm going to use that for the heart. So you pick your favourite colour that we've used so far, or maybe make a new colour. I'm going to go with purple. I just really like this shade. And again, using my small brush just because we've got that kind of edge detail that I want to take my time on. And just same as before, Just going to take our time, go as slow as we need. So when your pots are nice and dry and finished, they will dry fairly matte, but to make them have that little shine as if they were wet, so you can see here there's a shine to my pot here, but now that in the middle is a little bit dry, it's a little bit more matte. To get that shine back, I would say use PVA glue, or you can use like a spray acrylic varnish, or even you can use hairspray. The clay isn't food safe itself, and the paints aren't either, so everything we're making is decorative regardless. So if you just want a lovely like decorative pot, I'd say PVA glue or hairspray is definitely the cheapest, or you can splash out and get some acrylic spray, which I think makes a slight difference. It's a little bit better, but not as noticeable. I would say the PVA glue does the job just fine. And similarly to our painting, just paint over one layer of PVA glue, and that should be nice and shiny when it dries. Brilliant. I got my heart on there, and then for my background, I think I'll paint it a nice pale blue. So just going to give my brush a nice clean, pop that over there. We might add some small hearts after we painted our blue, but we'll see. So I've got my pot. It's a little bit tricky to rotate and paint. I would say you can either pop it on somewhere you don't mind getting paint on, or hold it kind of like this, but it's fairly stable as well just because it's a bigish pot. Or you could bounce it on some sort of lid, if that makes sense, just so that you can rotate your pot nice and easily. Might do that with one of my smaller pots, and that means your hands aren't getting dirty. So to make a nice light blue, I'm going to grab some of our white, and you guessed it, some of our blue. I know it's going to need a little bit more white than blue, so I've started maybe 75% white, 50%, 25% blue. Just give it a mix, see if you like the colour, if you want any changes. So I might go in with a little drop more white, and make sure it's really mixed in thoroughly. You know, you don't really want to have to go back and mix that colour again, just because you might not get the ratio right. So give it a really nice mix in, and make sure you get it all off your brush as well. Just all of that pigment and that dark blue. I am happy with that colour. So I don't need to really wipe my brush, just because we are going to be painting a lot of space on our pot, so it doesn't need to be super detailed. I'm going to leave this space to the end just because it is the trickiest part and I might need to concentrate. So I'm just rotating around and painting as I do, just really small dabbing strokes. And my inside is actually dry as well, so I can also paint like this if people find that easier. And you can see there's not a major difference between just painting your clay as is and painting it on white, but you can just see we're going to need one extra layer maybe on the bottom as opposed to the white already, kind of fulfilling its purpose of being a good base. Whoops, let's pop it down there. So again, just taking care when I'm around the heart. You might even want to switch to a smaller brush. And just making sure all that bottom's done. I'm not going to do the very bottom because no one's going to see that, hopefully. Unless your friend turns it over and says, why haven't you done the bottom of it? And you say, well, didn't think anyone was going to look. Or you could put, right, a little surprise on the bottom. So, got all that base down so I can pop it onto my lid. And then I'm going to go round the top part now, which is just a little bit tricky. I'm going to swap to my smaller brush. Just to get in between the heart. And at any point, if you kind of go maybe over the heart a little bit or over the rainbow, just go in with your previous colour and you can just pop that colour back on top. The good thing about acrylics is you can just paint over and it's almost like nothing happened. So again, just going to take my time. Brilliant. And just to kind of get some nice consistency, I'm going to go around with my brush again, just getting all those brush marks nice and smooth. There's a little bit of paint on my brush as well, but that's not my main aim. My main aim now is just to smooth everything down, make it nice and consistent. And you're almost double checking that you didn't miss any spots as well. And I think for one last final touch, I'm just going to add two really small red hearts just by my big heart. And I'm grabbing my smaller brush. This is loaded with paint, so it's quite thick, so when I pop it on, it should just leave a nice kind of blob of paint. And I'm just going to extend that blob down and extend it down the other way just to make a really small nice heart. So this does work by having a lot of paint onto the brush. So again, just kind of blobbing it down, slowly moving it away. Like so. And that's just a little extra bit you can do.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Ooh, Alexa's saying something. And give everything a little final touch. So just neating up any small marks that might have been made, any final touches. And once you're happy, of course my camera decides not to focus after that whole session. There we go. And hopefully it should turn out something like that when you're finished. And yeah, I love making these pots and I love the outcome, so hopefully you will too. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming to the painting session. And that's the end of my series with the clay pinch pots for Pride, but I hope you really enjoyed it. And I hope to see you again soon, everyone. And thank you so much for having me in Virtual Village Hall and the Royal Voluntary Service. And yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much.